Welcome back to Derry Public Radio. Reporting from the basement of the Derry Civic Center, this is CM Alexander with the news. As Susan Day nears the end of her speech only a few floors above us, we would like to thank This is Derry Public Radio. Welcome back to Derry Public Radio, a bi-weekly Stephen King Book Club podcast. I'm one of your hosts, CM Alexander, alongside Joshua Kahn.
Hey, everybody.
And Benjamin Graham.
Sup, constant readers.
And today we are finishing Insomnia, and Josh is leading the discussion.
All right, last chunk of Insomnia. This book is massive, and it is confusing. I think this last chunk is more insanity than the rest of the book combined.
It is so bizarre. This is just a fucking weird book. I don't have better words for it than that.
So, to recap where we are, Ed Deepno has been driven mad by the Crimson King and is going to fly a plane into the Derry Civic Center. And Ralph and Lois are at the lair of Atropos, and they're going to try to find something here that will stop him and save the day.
Can you guys perfectly picture the inside of this tree?
No.
I could, but I'm not going to describe it to you.
Weird tree tease, but all right.
I cannot explain the sentence I'm about to say.
Okay.
But in my head, how do I even phrase this? Because it's nonsense. In my head, it looks like a level in a PlayStation 2 platformer. Does that make any sense to anyone?
Yes.
Like if there was a Jack and Daxter level that took place inside a tree, that's what it looks like in my head. I can't tell you why. It just does.
I like that. We do find out that Atropos is a hoarder.
That I was mostly shocked to find out that Atropos poops.
Wait, what?
He eats and sleeps and poops. And I just didn't think that he would do all those things. Because when they get down to his lair, they're taking inventory of just piles of shit everywhere. And, he's
stuff
got
or shit?
Sorry, it's just stuff. Stuff for now. And they describe his bed. And I love when he sees the burlap pillow, he's like, the dreams that pillow has seen would drive me insane.
Yeah. I did find it super weird that he just has a little apartment in this tree.
And when he's scanning the room, he also comes upon a bucket that has a toilet seat on top of the bucket, like a camping toilet.
I forgot about that.
Why?
Everybody poops, Ben.
Does he poop
argue.
auras?
I don't
that's
know.
A weird question. Come on.
Yeah, in the context of this book, there are no weird questions.
That's true. We haven't seen Atropos suck anybody off. Doesn't mean he can't.
He gets sucked off. You just know that.
I thought that when they go in the tree that Ralph's clear output is, I'm going to get the comb and those earrings and we're going to get the fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. But then when he sees the hoarder level amount of shit around, it seems incredibly hopeless. But then they hear a sound.
It's insane that the items... Okay, so every time I kind of wrap my head around what's going on in this book, and I think this is it. Like, this is the biggest this world gets, the wackiest.
Sure.
Items that he took from people who are still alive are singing.
Fucking weird. It's such a cool detail, though.
Yeah.
How fucking loud is that room? Because there's so much shit there, right?
Yeah.
And not only is it like tons and tons of like little knickknacks and doodads, there's also literal like pallets of money. First of all, when he takes money from someone, does it just belong to the last person that had it or everyone that had it? Doesn't matter. If there's a pallet of dollar bills, that's so many. And if they are all singing, I would have loved Ralph to like walk into that room and be like, fuck. Just run out. We can't go in there. Yeah.
It's his noise machine.
Oh, to help him sleep.
That's how he sleeps.
That makes sense. It's such a cool thing that's how, Ralph fills in, pallet of money. All right, now we know where Ed got all this money from to do all this. As they're like finding the stuff in here, though, I do really like the Pet Cemetery Easter egg. Really nice. A sneaker belonging to Gage Creed.
Thanks for making me sad again.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know how I felt about this.
Yeah.
Did you feel like it was shoehorned?
Oh,
I didn't even.
Take credit for it,
Yeah.
CM. Just
quick edit.
Oh, I'm proud.
The traditional way we respond
when you say a good joke. Ooh, I'm proud.
I'm just gonna stop talking.
that was Bill Hicks' catchphrase, wasn't it?
I didn't know how I felt about this because of how enormous the implications are.
Let's talk about it.
Can we also include the part about like Pennywise and stuff? Like, how do these things exist in the same town? How does that connect?
Yeah, that's so huge that I didn't even think of that. No, I was just thinking of the implications of the order and the chaos. This kind of really nails home that this is the foundation of how King's multiverse works, that these doctors are just everywhere. This is how life and death works in King's universe, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But it also implies that at some point, a tiny bald doctor stole something from Jack Torrance and took him for the chaos, It's every book we've ever read. There's a little bald doctor scurrying around, pulling strings, literally, behind the scenes, setting off all of these. It impacts every story we have ever read and will read. It's too big and it's too silly of an idea.
The only reason it makes sense for him to have something of Gage's is because he would have, cut the balloon string and taken it. But that doesn't... I don't think Atropos cutting balloon strings always, takes people for the chaos. I feel like
Ed had a special thing about him that allowed him to... Like, he shouldn't have been continuing on.
See, I assume because he has so much stuff. He's stealing things and cutting balloon strings all the time. I assumed his entire role in this cosmos is kind of like in the show Dead Like Me, how they're the deathlings or whatever, the little monsters that scurry around and cause accidental death. I thought that was his whole deal, is that anyone that dies a natural death, I guess, is taken by the other two. Thank you. I have gone this entire 4 episodes without saying their names out loud.
I think I have too.
I'm gonna keep it going. Those two handle the purposeful deaths, whereas everything that Atropos does is the violent
you're absolutely right.
So, which is, of course, reading King books, 90% of the deaths that we deal with. It blows my mind to see a little bald doctor running up and cutting a balloon string, and then that person gets hit by a floating Coke machine. That's crazy.
Well, okay, so that kind of ties into what threw me, which is these really large-scale, important, and insane things happening in Derry. It feels like in our world, if you're like, oh yeah, I've seen in my backyard the chupacabra and Bigfoot.
Sure.
They don't go together.
Well, I mean, that's just another King thing.
No, I'm not truly criticizing it.
Yeah, no, sure.
Yeah, but...
No, it's like Star Wars. Why is every character on Star Wars? How do they all know each other? And Star Wars is a huge universe, and it all takes place on the same 5 planets.
Yeah,
it's Stephen King is that, but Maine.
So as we're going through this museum of horror, which we also discovered that is the size of a small suburb, it is impossibly large. Which is, I think, another piece of evidence that it's not, actually in Derry where they are.
Ooh, it's a thinny, kind of.
Well, yeah, they had to go up levels to even get to where they are, so.
As they went down into the earth is cool.
Very cool. They find the thing that is being calling out to them, and it is enshrouded in this black marble-sized black hole that's sucking off everything in the room. And did you guys have any guesses as to what was inside this marble of hate?
No, and I'm really sorry, but I have love in an elevator stuck in my head now. Living it up as you're going down. Because they're anyway.
Fantastic.
I did not expect the black death bag in here to house, Ed's wedding ring.
This is baffling. This whole sequence, the whole how the ring works and behaves is so surreal. It is just this whole last portion of the book is just a hat on a hat on a hat on a hat on a hat. It's hats all the way down.
Yes.
This book. It's this death bag, and it is actively siphoning off the life of everything in the room, which is so much stuff. And this is where Ralph uses his powers.
Green Lanterns?
Yeah, like he does. He does the Green Lantern thing, which is something that bothered me the whole book, and I haven't really touched on it, is just the amount of, I try this. It works. It's so like Golden Age Superman. Like, what can auras do? What superpowers does Ralph have? Whatever he needs in the moment.
Ralph's superpower is intuition.
Oh my God. That would be my superpower, to have whatever power I needed in the moment.
Oh, that's cheating, but also genius.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the one wish. Yeah. Shit. But okay, so Ralph in this moment, he's like, well, I need to get through this somehow. And he Green Lanterns by turning his aura around his hand into big scissors and cuts through this bag, destroying it. And inside is Ed's wedding ring. And he picks it up, and it's still there.
What the fuck?
And he's like, huh, what? And he picks up another copy, and there's another one still there. And I don't even remember he goes, oh, this must be how it works. And it's such nonsense that I immediately went, sure, whatever. And forgot how I was just like, yeah, it's a magic ring. Who cares?
It's a one ring.
Yes.
Rule them all, which Ralph says a lot. Which
is such King being like, see, this is it's signaling how important this ring is, rather it's telling and not showing. It's like, this ring is so powerful for some reason. You know, the One Ring and how important and powerful and cool that ring is? This is like that. Please think this is like that. Everyone should really think about the Lord of the Rings when they read Insomnia.
I love reading Lord of the Rings references before the movies.
Yeah.
Like before it became as pop culture as it is now. Because you can tell that back then it was like, this is for the people who read this stuff. It's like a deep cut,
and now it's,
Yeah. So they take their ring copies and start to stroll out, except Atropos has been lying in wait, and he grabs Lois. And then my favorite thing happens, because we have this hostage moment, it's very intense for a second, and then Lois sees in the reflection that he's wearing her earrings, and she just fucking grabs and hauls his ass. Yeah. It's fucking great.
Like judo throws him.
He's a tiny little doctor. Why'd that get you?
I don't know.
Well, it's like...
It's just, we've been saying it and taking it for granted. But the phrase, a tiny little doctor, is very just innately funny.
Thank you, Ben.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But she just throws him and then proceeds to just start kicking his ass. And he's just like yelling at her to stop. And Ralph, for whatever logical reason it made sense for him, rips her slip out from under her.
He's been wanting to do that all
I
day.
mean, come on. And then uses it to throw it over Atropos, and then uses that like a sling, and David and Goliath's his ass across the room into a wall.
It's so goddamn funny.
Brilliant.
That this guy has been built up as this like supernatural, otherworldly, being from another dimension. Don't fuck with Atropos. He's a being of he's compared to us basically immortal. You can't. And then finally they're just like, fuck this, and beat the shit out of him. Ralph basically sits on his chest and carves him up like a fucking turkey.
Okay.
Ooh.
There's something I want to point out here because I think it's important. So Ralph goes over to him, like you said, he puts his knee on his back and has him face down and is holding him down. And Atropos says, "Stop, you're killing me." They can't lie.
Oh.
Shit.
I thought it was interesting because it also shows that the power that they have, because no regular person could do that they've been supercharged by all the aura they've taken, that at least at this moment, they're a match. Ralph gets Lois to leave the room, which is the moment when did anybody else like, oh shit, this is going to go to a dark place.
Well, and she's like, please don't kill him. Again, Lois is just the nicest lady. She sticks to her morals.
What happens if Ralph had killed this guy?
Would
there be another, a new little bald doctor, or
maybe he'd become the little bald doctor?
Okay, that would be the craziest thing that ever happened.
Oh, it's like the Santa Claus.
Yeah, if this, in the last 100 pages, if this became the Santa Claus, I wouldn't be entirely surprised. I would just continue to be confused.
There is still time to make this adaptation with Tim Allen playing Ralph.
God.
No.
So Ralph's holding him down. He rips the earrings out of his ears. And that's when he realizes that he thinks Atropos might never have been hurt before. Mm-hmm. And that's also a terrifying idea.
Yeah.
And Atropos basically says, I'll make you a deal. You leave, don't interfere anymore, and I'll leave you guys alone forever. You can live another 70 years, and I'll never come near you again. And Ralph's response, his counter offer to this negotiation, is to take the scalpel and start peeling him like a grape.
This made me a little bit sick.
It's not great.
I loved it.
It's awesome, but it made me...
It's a cool moment. It's just like, Ralph really did it. He broke the Geneva Conventions. It's a cool moment because, like, it's this, extra dimensional being that he has been fucking with us the entire book. And it's like, yeah, fuck you. But also torture's bad. It's bad to read about.
He cuts off his ear.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's pretty great, though. If you can leave your physical mark on an extra dimensional being, go for it,
If I'm ever in a fight, I hope I can cut off someone's ear.
Yeah, CM goes for the eyes, and then she rips off the ear.
Oh, note to self. Keep CM happy at all costs.
They make a deal, though, and he lets Atropos up, and the moment Atropos is up, he says, I'll stick to the deal we made that, I won't come after you guys, but here's what I'm gonna do, and shows him a vision that involves the red apple and a Boston Red Sox cap, and that's pretty much all we're given.
Did you guys know?
I had an idea, but not the way that it happened. I was imagining, like, far, far future.
It's actually the problem I have with the epilogue once we get there, because to me, it was so goddamn obvious that I was just like, just get to it. There's a lot of hemming and hawing about it later on when I was just like, yeah, we all know. We know what's going to happen. You make it pretty clear. Maybe not at this point. At this point, I think it's fair to be like, I wonder what that's about. But once it gets a little closer to, once the Death Watch starts winding again, it's like, okay, we know what's going to happen. Let's get to it.
It's interesting because I wasn't 100% sure. I thought something else was going to happen, but we'll get to it when we get to the epilogue.
Fair.
So this deal essentially is Atropos' way of saying, if you interfere with the Civic Center, I'm going to do this vision that I showed you. And Ralph just knows that there's nothing he can do about this now, and away he goes. When he gets back up top, he gives Lois the earrings back, and they realize that at this point, it is en route, that he has less than 90 minutes before he is going to crash into the Derry Civic Center. So they go around to the old Crocs and gain some powers, and Door's there hanging out.
Yeah, I love
Always
Door.
good to see Door.
Door's my favorite character in the book, I think.
And I just love that he's talking to them, but no one can see them because they're up on a higher level, and everyone's just like, classic Door.
Well, it makes you wonder, all the other times people were like, what's that weirdo doing? Who is he talking to?
Yeah. I hope to be that old man one day. I want to be the guy that's just talking to nothing and everyone's like, yeah, that's Ben.
Yeah. But again, I really thought we were going to get some answers about Door, and spoiler alert, we do not.
No.
Nope. All he says, he basically leaves them with at this point, whatever happens, it's going to happen because of you guys. Nothing else anybody does is going to matter.
Yeah.
And then he's like, see, I'm going to go read some poetry.
And I'm trying to remember this right, kind of scolds them a little bit on just how they were just following everything the two doctors said to the letter.
Yeah. So they go to Strawford Park, and Ralph has decided in his infinite wisdom that if he's given a choice, he's going to choose neither, because that's how he does things. Ralph and Clotho and the Kisses finally show up and walk out of the porta potties in the park.
It's a very important spot.
It proves that all three of the doctors poop.
And we get another info dump. What did you guys think about this next info dump with the little bell doctors?
I did not remember the whole Patrick thing, and because when I first read this, the rest of the books that deal with Patrick weren't out yet.
The book that deals with
Well,
Patrick.
I mean, we weren't even.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wolves of the Kala wasn't out when I read this book.
Yeah. So that moment, I was kind of like, oh, okay, cool. And then just never remembered it again. I don't even know if I caught it at the, when he comes about again.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely remember the Patrick thing is like one of the biggest things I remember about this book, because I remember the first time I read this book, I had read the first 4 Dark Tower books, and I was, 1,000% in. But I remember getting to the end, which is obviously not this part, but the end part that we will get to.
Yeah.
And being weirdly disappointed.
Really?
Yes. Which I guess I can talk about when we get to it.
Sure, yeah.
I'll explain it, but
we find out that Patrick is the reason all of this is happening. He is basically more important than anyone else. And they do this whole thing, and I think this is something a lot of people are going to be familiar with, that concept of basically usually deals with time travel. If you were able to go back in time and kill Hitler, would you do that? Should you do that? Most people will be like, hell yeah, let's do it. But their argument is that changes so many things. Like, the world might not be what it is now. It might be worse, in fact, because of, some other thing that happens because this opportunity has created the space for that. It's really an interesting argument.
It's the Dan Carlin's great people with capital G. Like their impact, whether it be good or ill.
I would argue always kill Hitler 1,000% of the time. I don't care how it changes the world. A whole lot more people would be alive.
Man, no, that's not my argument.
No, I know. It's such a.
But the argument is, what if there's double Hitler?
Yeah.
What if you kill Hitler and double Hitler?
Then you have a time travel. You go back in time and
really?
kill double
You're just
Hitler.
Constantly having to kill all these double Hitlers.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And you have a great life.
That's a lot of babies that you're killing. Speaking of, so Insomnia.
Oh, Josh.
What?
Oh no!
I brought it all back.
Jesus Christ.
A part of this info dump is saying that his mom couldn't get a sitter, so he is, and Susan Day is.
His mom did get a sitter,
Oh,
but the
that's
sitter cut
right.
her hand because this chaos thing is changing everything to place Patrick at the Civic Center because they saved him the first time.
Yep.
Which is real tough not to talk about how much it reminds me of 11/22/63.
Yes.
It's
yes.
time
Yeah.
being. How do they say it in the book? Time is obstinate. I don't
Yes,
remember
yes,
how
yes.
it's the way things are supposed to be, or the forces that are shaping things are actively working against the people trying to save the day.
Which also goes with their argument that you think you're doing a good thing and things get worse. Oh, you guys!
They explain finally that the reason that Ed can do this is because he's not part of the random or the purpose, because he's been cut free, essentially. He's been cut free and kept alive, so he is outside of these concepts and can do this. And they have to stop him, because if he crashes that plane into the Civic Center, then the tower will fall.
Does this make Ed the most dangerous villain we've
Only
had so
technically.
far? Just because of what he's capable of that
I mean,
no one else is?
It's the reason this is a keystone book is because it is so central, and because it has the biggest effect directly on the tower and the tower stories. But does this story earn that?
I think this story proves that the Crimson King is the most evil. Like, he's the one orchestrating all of this. So Ralph says to Clotho and Lachesis that he'll make them a deal also, and he'll save the boy for someone. And Lois is away for a bit and can't hear. She's catching little bits of the conversation, and it doesn't look like this debate is going well as to what they're going to negotiate on. And then this voice booms, "It may be so." And everyone's like,
okay.
Oh God. Did the tower just talk to us? Is that what just happened? What do you guys think? What was that voice?
The white, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. Sure. We've reached the point in like cosmic absurdity. Things are so far beyond human comprehension at this point. I think any answer makes as much sense as anything. It was God. Who cares? It's something us trying to understand what it was is just going to make us go, sure. It's I like the white as much as any answer.
Yeah. And this light goes into Clotho's scissors, and the deal is made. Not what I thought was going to happen with these scissors.
Okay. Of everything in the book, this is the most visceral to me and difficult to read about. Would
you like to describe it to purge it from your brain?
I'm going to try. They basically take these scissors, and we're seeing it from Lois's perspective still, right? And Ralph rolls up his sleeve, and the doctor's so nervous that he fumbles and he almost drops the scissors. So that is upsetting, because that's his tool. And he cuts into Ralph's arm. And Ralph asks him before this happens, which Stephen King is such a jerk. He's like, is this going to be painful? And he's like, probably the worst thing you've ever felt in your life. And the way it's described as him just opening his arm up, I don't even know what happened after that, because I was just so upset. If this was a movie, I'd have to look away.
Yeah.
It's like, getting, when you see needles going into arms on screen, I can't deal with it.
It's like the degloving scene in Gerald's Game, but from the
don't
elbow down.
Don't say that.
Like an elbow length degloving.
God, stop
Good
saying
Christ,
it.
Josh.
So Lois watches all this happen and sees that at the end, he runs his hand over the wound and it seals, and he has this white scar that's running down it, which is bitchin'.
Can I share something silly?
Yeah.
I assumed that what they did was basically make Ralph some sort of like bomb, for lack of a better word.
I kind of
and it was
thought
going to be his
thing.
death, but it wasn't.
No, it was a promise ring.
Oh,
Yeah, kind of.
Gross.
Yeah. Now, Ben, do you want to talk about what happens with Lois here when she hears a voice behind her asking her to turn around?
I'll say what I think I remember, because I thought I missed something.
Nope.
Because she's watching this happen. She's like, oh, fuck, that's terrible to watch. And then all of a sudden did she hear it or did she feel its presence? She turns around and there's a glowing green man just standing there.
Yeah, his aura is green and it's so bright that she can't really see
who it is.
It's like a silhouette almost.
Yeah. And he kind of motions for her to follow him, right? And then they walk off and then the chapter ends. And I'm like, what the fuck was that about?
The last
I have
part
no
of this
idea.
book is,
Still.
did I miss something?
Yeah.
Theories? Did I?
Do
The
they?
green.
Did I? Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Oh,
Do they explain this later?
Oh,
No, I
it's
don't-
Dorrance.
That's the only thing I could think of
Interesting.
is that I swore it was gonna, find out that it was Dor
Mm-hmm.
for some reason that he had, but there's no reason that this happens. The green guy doesn't do anything.
All he does is he tells her to give him the earrings without the backs.
He infuses the earrings with the power that Ralph needs later
right,
with the
right,
Crimson
right.
King. So it might not be
Sure.
Dor, but I feel like Dorrance and this green man are either the same or they are similar, like they exist in the same sort of
Sure.
universe.
I just wouldn't think it was Dor because he.
Why wouldn't he
the
just
last
come
time
up
we-
to her
yeah.
as, yeah.
Well, the last time we saw him, he said, "Whatever happens is up to you guys," implying
Yeah.
he wouldn't be a part of anything.
That's
going
true.
Forward.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just such a
Yeah. I'm so
So-
curious. So,
It would-
listeners, if you guys know,
Why didn't King just make Ralph and, getting his promise degloving, forget to give Lois back her earrings? And then he
Sure.
finds them in his pocket the way he found the
Yeah.
pepper spray.
we have to be missing something. Like, there's
Oh,
got to be
listeners,
something
Please help us.
somewhere.
I don't know. It's the whole there's so little agency in this fucking book for our main characters because the powers above them are causing everything. It makes everything that happens in the entire book feel like fucking sleepwalking
yeah.
through the plot. Nothing that our main characters do truly matters because they were just going to do it anyway because these forces were pulling their, fucking
Balloon
strings.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I think in the end, they can always choose inaction. And Ralph threatens as much multiple times. So I think the desperation that the higher powers have to push them in that direction, like you can feel how desperate the universe is to make him say yes, because in the end, what he does next, he could just choose not to do. It's like it's similar to that, like the Chosen One stories where it's, a destiny thrust upon you that you can't fight and can't do anything about. Except for this is someone else called you to destiny.
Sure.
And is going to drag you kicking and screaming
Sure.
to the finale.
No, my problem is just there's no setup for anything that happens. There's no setup. It's just them going from place to place and then usually some outside force showing up and being like, oh yeah, by the way, do this.
Yeah.
This is the next thing you do.
It's like a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, it is unsatisfying is what it is. When your characters are when your main characters that are supposedly there to save the day, none of their actions are due to their own, reasoning. It's just they're like, I guess I'm gonna go and do this now because a green man showed up and said so.
That's a really good point, because a lot of this time I've been comparing it in my head to the Talisman, in that first chunk is a lot of exposition. It's a lot of getting you into this person's world before ranking up how topsy-turvy it is. And I had the same problem where the beginning of this, I wasn't super into it. Same thing with the Talisman. But I think the difference, you just nailed it, is there are no godlike beings that drop down to Jake and say, hey, this is your next stop.
Yeah.
And then peace out.
Jack.
And that's, yes. Jack.
It's okay. Jack.
Yeah. Nobody, gives Traveling Jack the next place and then the next place. He's got to figure it out on his own, where Ralph has been given signposts.
And also the Talisman kind of, by the first half of the book, the rules of the world are explained. You get
That's true.
You get what is going on. In this, up until the last goddamn, up until the point where he's in the plane, they're still making shit up.
Yeah.
They're still like, oh, and also this wild thing happens sometimes.
This whole book is really build the plane while you fly it.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Honestly, I mean, that's something Stephen King has said, though, about, writing and then the story just being what happens. I can definitely see this being a story that started in one direction and then something else
got out of hand.
Yeah, and he just followed it to its destination. And that's kind of great on its own.
It's full of wild imagination.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that. That's true.
So, back to the story. Ralph gets the earrings. That are supercharged by the Green Man.
Sure.
And goes, takes some of Lois's energy to power himself
He
up.
sucks her off hard.
He sucks
This
off
is
like 40
insane.
years.
Yes. He gets like suck happy and can't stop or something. And she literally ages. Like what he say? She looks like 20 years older.
Yeah, he says that she looks like she could be in her 70s, I think, which is
Yeah.
older than she is by a lot.
I would be angry at him.
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey, buddy, I didn't say you could take it all.
Right.
I'd never let Ralph suck me off again.
He needs it more than she does right now because he
Yeah,
goes
well,
in.
and then she sucks off a hobo. Which isn't what we call people, but
a tradition they started together, mind you. So he's gonna have some feelings about that. He goes into the bathroom. He slides on Ed's ring over his ring finger, and the back wall just falls away into the cockpit of the plane.
I love though that so Ralph makes his way there, and he's not like described as being in the plane, but sort of outside of the plane.
He's like, his head is like still through the top part a little bit.
I agree.
Weird, man. Being a ghost sounds terrifying. But he sees on the control panel of the plane a photo of the three of them, of Ed, Helen, and Natalie, from about a year before, like when she'd just been born.
You piece of shit. Don't put a picture of your wife and baby in your death plane after what you did and are about to do.
It drives me crazy that at no point during this confrontation does Ralph yell, those two are in that building that you're about to hit. Like, Ed is so far gone at this point, it wouldn't have done any good, but like, why would you not at least be
try.
like, hey, you fucking idiot.
He's too busy catfishing.
Weird. Why does any of this happen?
I don't know. But Ralph steps into the plane all the way, and I like that Ed's like, what the fuck? How the fuck did you get here? And then Ralph fights him.
Before Ralph can do anything, his mother shows up. Like, it's like, try to describe this right. He's in the plane and he's on a level, so he's not like physically there. And when he looks over, it's not the rest of the plane or the sky he sees. It's his old house and his mother sitting in a rocking chair, and she has this red pool of blanket that she's knitting on her lap. And he thinks that's odd because he didn't even know if she knew how to knit. Like, that just wasn't something he ever saw her doing. And from here, it gets so fever dream weird. Like, I love this sequence. There's no way when we continue to describe what happens, if you're listening, and I know this happens, some people do this, and you haven't read this, it's going to sound like it should be stupid or silly and just ridiculous. It is effective, in my opinion.
It's so bizarre. It goes over that line of like, this should be in a different book almost. It comes out of nowhere, and it's that level of dream-like state that King is just so fucking good at writing.
It makes you feel unnerved in where you thought you were in this world and what you thought you understood. It just takes you as a reader, kind of, you sidestep somewhere else that you didn't agree to be and doesn't feel good. And it's like, only King has that ability.
Yeah, it rules.
It's the way the room slowly just gains more detail the longer he looks at it. And there's those small things, like there's roses by the window, and he's sure that his mom never had roses in the house. And he's noticing all this detail. And the detail that really struck me, and I wasn't expecting it to hit, was that he noticed that his mother had no aura. And I was like, oh, that's what a weird thing to notice, since you've been spending all this time with those auras. And he realizes that he is not in his home. He is in the court of the Crimson King. I gotta say, the Crimson King is way less intimidating in person.
He's way more like personal. It's like he really knows Ralph. And he seemed like way, higher level. Like, I don't know. It just felt so interestingly targeted. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, yeah, because he says that the way he feels afraid makes him realize he's never truly been afraid before, because it's like the Crimson King is already inside him.
Mm-hmm. I like too that he has this like memory that's sort of trying to come through about telling his brother. Well, he doesn't even say what it is quite yet. He's like, "Get it off me, Johnny," or I can't remember what his name is. And his mom's like, at first her voice is right, but she kind of looks off, and then her voice starts to be off, and then he notices, and she's telling him like, "You mind me now," and that's something she would always say. And he notices she has like whiskers. He's like, "My mom didn't really have, a hairy face." And then this is ridiculous. Then he realizes that those whiskers are catfish whiskers. So the Crimson King is inside this image of his mom that is turning into this catfish that scared the crap out of him when he was a little kid.
The queenfish, as he calls it.
Oh, so gross.
It's a really gross image. Because
yeah.
this memory that he has is going fishing with his brother and a catfish biting his hand.
When they were little kids.
Yeah, when they were little. So it like engulfs his entire hand, and he's swinging it around and he can't get it off. And when he finally does, he throws it to the ground and stomps on it, which I don't know if you've ever seen a small animal get stepped on.
No, thank God.
And all the eggs spill out,
bad.
which is what makes it. And his brother, the reason he was freaking out, other than like, if you're not intentionally trying to noodle a catfish, I'm sure that's the worst thing to ever happen. But his brother told him, be careful of the whiskers because they're poison. Mm-hmm. And he realized, at some point my brother was just scared and they weren't poison, but that's why he freaks out so hard and ends up like stomping on this catfish. And that's when he realizes, oh, this is a female catfish that was like a day away from releasing these eggs to be fertilized. And I know it's a fish, but it made me really sad.
It is so sad.
A lot of baby death on so many levels in this book.
And that's when the Crimson King tells him that shape-changing is an honored custom here in Derry. Terrific line. Great line. And then Ralph does the only thing that you can do when you are faced with a giant catfish attacking you. Stab it in the fucking eye with an earring.
It works. Yeah.
I was going to say cover it in lemon juice, but that's fine. It's fine too.
And when he stabs him in the eye, the illusion drops. The Crimson King lurches forward to bite him, and Ralph, instead of pulling away, shoves his fist into his mouth. And the way I was like thinking of it is the trap in his arm goes off and blows him up from the inside.
Yeah, like the sky opens up and he retreats back to the tower. We also get a glimpse of what he really looks like, or maybe really looks like.
Yeah, he's an awful old man in a red cloak. Right?
He's a tall blonde.
He's a tall blonde with red skin and red eyes.
Oh, yeah, that's not what he looks like.
So weird. in your head canon?
No, in the canon. Never mind.
Honestly, don't remember how he's physically described. And then there's the little the light he's going into. The dead lights, little comment in there. When all of that falls away, he's back outside. He's like 5 feet to the right of the plane, but I do love that he's stayed alongside on the trajectory and everything.
It's so strange that we have this huge, like this epic showdown with the Crimson King, and then Ralph now has to go fight Ed. I'd be like, hey, I'm done. Like, did you see what I just did? Not good enough? Really? Come on. I banished the Crimson King.
Right.
And I have to fight this dude.
When he goes back in, right before he takes down Ed, this is something that we kind of talked about throughout the series of what part of Ed was changed and how much. And it's at this point that Ralph kind of puts his thoughts out there for us that Ed knew that the devil had been let in. He was all right with it.
He could have, if he wanted to, he could have pushed it out. But he chose not to.
Yeah. Clotho and Lachesis kept telling him it's always a choice.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a choice, and Ed leaned in.
I love this whole book of like, I've gone back and forth, not knowing like, is this something that happened to Ed? Is this something he participated in? Is it a, sort of combination? And it's just cool to be taken on that ride.
Yeah. So before he comes back down to the level that Ed's on, he, so smart, arms himself with the earring and then loops his fingers through the wires of the detonator. So as soon as he comes back, he can pull the stuff out. So great. So he comes down, he does that, and they fight for control of the plane. And it goes back and forth in a very cool way. And Ed is able to maintain the upper hand and constantly bringing it back towards the Civic Center. And that's when Ralph grabs the photo. How would you describe Ed's reaction to that grab?
He seems to give a shit about them now. Is that too angry?
Well,
Yeah, no, that's...
It's, I mean, yeah. But the implication with Ed's reaction that dawns on him is that he keeps yelling, "Give them back." When Ed,
he's not talking to Ralph.
Yeah.
He's talking to the Crimson King, who took his family from him by putting him in this position, which he also chose to be in.
His family was not taken from him.
No, but am I reading that right?
That's
his perception.
That's
right.
what he is saying.
Yeah, well,
because
he's laying
a guy
the blame
like that, would
he's
play the victim.
Exactly.
And,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. So he lunges for the photo. Ralph punches him in the throat. I love a good throat punch. I love a good throat punch. It's why Taken is my favorite movie. And Ralph does the only thing he can do. It's too late to turn it away or pull back up, so he nosedives straight down into the ground, into the parking lot. And at the very last minute, he's sure he is going to be destroyed, because the Crimson King even said, on this level, that shockwave resonates through all levels. You'll be obliterated no matter what. So he has accepted he's going to die.
I thought so too.
Yeah, 100%. And we hear Lois, and Lois is like, "Get your ass out of here," and pulls him back through the porta potty. Would you guys like to talk about the crash? Any fun takeaways from the crash?
This made me, okay, what we said should happen and would happen today was happening. So that's kind of cool, because we are at the Civic Center. Everybody is there. Susan Day is giving a speech. People have like armbands, I think armbands, to, they're mourning and they're paying their respects to the women who lost their lives. And Susan Day is making a speech about that issue. And I felt really bad when the crash happens and she gets decapitated.
It's a throwaway line that they're like, and she gets decapitated and her head sails off and lands in the 6th row. And then that's it. And it's like, wow, that is a inglorious end.
I love it though, because it just shows how not important to the story she was. She was it was all an excuse. That we talked about that in so many of these episodes, that it was what they were fighting over. The fact that Susan Day, in the end, doesn't matter to what happened.
That's upsetting.
Yeah.
Something about that is upsetting.
It brings me to what I said earlier, that I find this ending to be kind of a disappointment. Because I understand this theme of the one for the many, that saving Patrick, we are told, which, not to even go into that, saving this one little boy is so much more important than saving the 1,000 women that just died. The fact that we are told that this one kid he's saved, so the day is saved. So many people die. It is. I remember reading it at the first time reading it, and we have a moment with Patrick and his mother in the stadium. And they hear the commotion, the explosion outside. And thankfully, they're distracted and don't see Susan Day's head fly into the crowd. But there's panic going on. And there's this moment where we find out that Patrick is a
college-level artist.
Just a savant for art. And in the stands, he has been drawing a picture of a tower standing in a field of roses with a cowboy standing in front of it.
And he says
that's Roland. He's a king. I dream about him sometimes. And I remember reading that and being like, cool. Could this have not happened in the last 30 pages of the book? Like, it is such a throwaway. It is such this entire book is just set up for another series of books that at the time I read it were not done. And there was no promise that they would ever be finished at the time, which I think is something we have to think about because, after the fourth book, how long of a gap was there between book 4 and book 5? Like, after he got hit,
it was a long
after
time.
King's accident, there was like no guarantee that the Dark Tower series was ever going to be finished. So reading this and being like, what the fuck? The entire purpose of this book is to set up something that I don't know that I will ever get to read. And having an entire book where it's like, we're going to save all of these people, and then all of these people are not saved. It just kind of bums me out.
It is very King, though, that saving you, that you can't save everybody.
Sure. Yeah. They saved the cheerleader. They saved the world.
Right.
That's great.
71 people were trampled to death in the leaving of the Civic Center. Lydecker nearly dies. He ends up in a coma for a few days.
The guy he's standing next to gets cut in half.
Yeah.
This is a Derry thing, too. No matter how hard you try and how much good you do and how truly you save the day, you never fully save the day in Derry.
I want to just
That's a really cool point because, like, the consequences of defeating it, half the city is destroyed.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a really interesting point.
Since we're not done being bummed out yet, I just want to point out that when Ralph does ask Clotho Machesis if this is all over after, we find out about what happened at the explosion, Clotho says that the boy lived and will live another 18 years. He'll save 2 men just before his death. So Patrick dies at 20.
We'll get to that.
Dies at 22, according to what Clotho's projection is, which that also
that was also sad. Yeah,
it's also sad.
Great, thanks.
We saved this guy for a handful more of years compared to the total years left and all the people who died.
Oh, I just want to go back to something real quick. Susan Day dying kind of makes me feel, I could be totally wrong. Please don't hold me to this, but it gave me the impression that the message King perhaps was conveying, or maybe he wanted us each to take away our own message, was more of that neither side is right, which is frustrating.
It is, once again, just more centrist bullshit. Like, yeah, I agree with that completely.
I guess I just more took it as, like I said, if I have a better way to phrase this than the rambling way I did earlier.
I think my opinion is very, very influenced by the time we live in right now, because I didn't question these concepts when I read this for the first time, and because the things, what am I trying to say? It's just
I know what you mean. Because I also had very few opinions about abortion as a 15-year-old boy.
Well, I just hate to attribute messages that are happening because of now, when he didn't write this now.
Sure.
He wrote that before. So I don't want to be unfair to the writing and say, well, blah, 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 because that's just shitty. But reading it now, it does kind of make me feel that way.
Yeah, what I think it is, the reason that I air quotes, glad that she's dead.
Okay. And this was after taking time to get the right way to phrase that?
I chose all the right words.
He had to think of those quotes. I'll put those around glad.
I misspoke when I even said air quotes. It's that because everybody else, nearly every character on the periphery of this story, is so focused on Susan Day. She is the one person everyone's focused on protecting. She is the one person everyone is focused on. Meanwhile, our heroes of the story are focused on facing the gods to save one person that no one's given a second thought about. And for it to end with the one person that everyone's been looking at as the focal point, the person we need to focus on, the person we need to save, dying is the cosmic purpose and random proof that her life was not keystone.
Yeah.
Like it was being treated to everybody. These people in this additional secret city in Derry knew the real importance is the universe. That was the
I get
convoluted
that.
train.
That makes sense to me. You know what, guys? I'm just a woke little snowflake sometimes. I've been called that plenty of times, I guess.
Some officious
Maybe
little
I
pricks.
am. Oh yeah. No, I'm not trying to make a statement or argue anything. It's just, this is what I love about rereading books.
Mhm.
They are going to have different messages for the same people based on what's going on when they read them. And it's just fascinating.
Yeah.
Not right or wrong, just fascinating.
I think it sucks. Anyway.
Ralph teaches them how to shake hands.
That is cute.
I do. It is really great that he's like the take her easy, and Clotho's like, wait for it. I'll take her any way I can get her, right? And he's like, yeah, buddy.
It's like Terminator 2.
Yes, this book is exactly like Terminator 2. Put it on the back of the jacket.
Oh god. They get back to Lois's house. She takes him to the bedroom for the only thing on everyone's mind: sleep. Because they're finally tired.
Yeah.
It's such a cute thing that they both like go home, shower, and just go to bed together because they can. Epilogue time. Ben, do you want to set a tone for the epilogue?
It's too goddamn long.
Agreed.
Fuck.
Agreed.
It is because, okay, it starts that Ralph and Lois get married. They have years of happy times together. They love each other. It's nice. But at a certain point, Ralph starts to hear the ticking of the death watch again.
Before the ticking of the death watch, though, to point out that they run into Dorrance outside the reception hall after their wedding, and he tells them that the long-timers are very pleased with how things went down, and they have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, they have already, like in so many of the books.
They're Bev and Bend.
Yeah. Yeah, like so many books, once the supernatural events have ended and it is no longer necessary for them to remember this. And I honestly think this is one of my favorite like Kingisms, because I feel like this is how the human mind would have to work.
I would be so angry that I was robbed of the memory of that, except I wouldn't remember to be angry.
Yeah, it's just I sense that like if something so traumatic and so antithetical to the way that we as humans believe the world works, we're thrust into the middle of that in like this high anxiety, tense situation. I absolutely 1,000% agree that as soon as we're back in a safe space, that we'd be like, no, we don't need to think about this ever again.
We're all Richard Sloat in the end.
Yeah.
You sleep forever, and you come out the other side saying none of it ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but they have years of happiness, and the Deep Nows move on, and Natalie grows up, and they're happy, and it's great. But then the death watch begins to tick again, and Ralph starts losing sleep. It's
when he's like, he woke up and it was 5:45. I was like, oh fuck. All right, here we go. And it starts, the death watch is getting louder, and he's waking up earlier, and a few weeks later he can start seeing hazy auras again, and it's all just coming back. It's ramping up. But you're right, it absolutely does take its time to get there.
Especially because it becomes pretty clear, at least for me, it was very obvious that this thing that they're counting down to, the end, is going to be Ralph saving. I didn't know whose, whether it was going to be Natalie or what's her name?
Helen.
Helen.
I thought it was going to be Natalie. Like, I kind of figured.
It makes more sense narratively. It became pretty obvious to me that it was Atropos had shown him one of the two other characters in this book that he cares about dying.
Right.
And that the final sacrifice was going to be Ralph giving his life for theirs.
Yeah.
And then it takes goddamn forever to get to that, because it starts with him being like slowly remembering, slowly coming to recognize that the death watch this time is coming from him. His time is coming up, and he doesn't really know exactly what it is. But when Natalie and Helen come over in Red Sox caps, he's like, this is part of it. This is gonna be what it is. And then the day comes and he wakes up and he's nervous because he knows what is going to happen. And he tries sneaking out of the house. He tries telling Lois, hey, I'm going to go get us ice cream. And she doesn't. And they waste so much time with him explaining everything to Lois. Unnecessary. We are the ones that need to know what's going on. We already get it.
Yeah.
Like, we did not need the step-by-step of, when he showed me this vision, it was of Natalie getting hit by a car. Just show us that. Just show us you rescuing her from the car, and we'll go, I know why. Now that fills in all this information.
Yeah.
But instead, we get more exposition dumps in the last 10 pages of a book. It's frustrating.
It's understandable. Like everything, Lois is begging him not to do it. Once she figures it out, everything is perfectly reasonable. There is this hard choice because she even says, if it's losing the man that I love or some other person, no matter who they are to me, I will always choose that other person. Doesn't want to go through that again. And it's understandable. But I think with everything we've gone through with this book, that I think you're absolutely right. The epilogue really should have been Ralph being like, I've got to do this, and then going and doing it.
Yeah.
Here's what I thought was going to happen that doesn't happen. I thought that Lois, when we get to the moment outside the Red Apple, Atropos has set up Rosalie 2, the dog that they got, and Natalie is coming towards the dog, and he is going to smack the dog to run into traffic. Then a car will swerve to miss the dog, run over Natalie. That is the plan. What I thought was that Lois and Ralph were she was going to commit to rescuing with him, and they'd both die. That's what I thought was going to happen. A little convoluted, but I thought that's what we were building up to of Lois's I won't.
I think that would have been a pretty wild deal for Ralph to make. That hey, let's save this one person and take me, and I'll throw in my girl.
Take my wife, please. So before we see the accident play out, I just love that we also get to check in with Mrs. Perrin, who I'm glad she's still her feisty old self. And her conversation with the newspaper, with the guy, the reporter, she's like, he came out of nowhere and saved that girl. You're gonna fucking say that I said it's like he came out of nowhere. He came out of nowhere, and then it cuts to her reading the paper and reading the headline saying, quote, it appeared he came out of nowhere. And she's like, God damn it!
Her and Dork, best characters.
So great. I can't wait for their spinoff.
Right.
Where they find love in their old age. So I just explained what happens, this plan. The moment that I love, though, is when Atropos sees Ralph see him, and he's like, this can't be fucking happening again. He's so mad that he can see him
covered
again.
in scars and has one ear, and he's like, God damn it!
So everything goes as Atropos' plan, except for Ralph ascends so he can move faster and comes out, shoves Natalie out of the way, and he's hit by the car. And it's bad.
Yeah.
It's not Jake Chambers bad, but
spoilers. Jesus
we
Christ.
read the book. We covered it on the show.
Oh yeah. I forgot that happened.
but it's bad, and it's a poor, it's a teenage kid learning to drive. Like, there's just so many tragedies that Atropos just wanted to line up on this one. But Lois runs to him and holds him and shields his body from everybody else. And Clotho and the Lachesis show up, which I thought was really nice.
Yeah.
And I love that she doesn't see him, but we get the one-sided version of the take her any way I can get her response when he shakes hands with the air, and I just thought that was super cute. I was really touched that they were with him in the end.
Yeah,
that made me really happy.
Yeah.
And as Ralph dies, they absorb some of his aura in their handshakes. And then as Lois is holding him, they touch either side of her face and put some of Ralph's aura into her so that she has him forever.
After punching me in the gut so many times, it's like we earned
Yeah, a little
something
bit
nice.
of something. Yeah.
Man. And then I tweeted at Stephen King that I cried when I finished reading it. I did, man. That the way they describe the aura going into her face and the way she physically responds to it, and it broke my heart in such a beautiful way. So that's Insomnia. Ratings?
It certainly
Yeah.
fucking is, huh? Who's going first?
I don't care.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I kind of hinted at it a little bit earlier about my feelings, where it was the build the plane as you fly it kind of writing. And while I do enjoy where the book ends up, and I understand why it's a favorite for a lot of people, that beginning is just kind of a long road to get through. But I gotta say, I like the insanity in the last section enough that I will probably reread this again sooner than later. And so I'm going to go 4 out of 5 blue chambray shirts.
Interesting. Okay. Is this a Keystone book? Absolutely. Completionists only. I cannot imagine if I had read this book earlier than I had. Like, if I had read this book before I was already a super fan, I don't think I would have read a King book again. Because it is so, all of the stuff that I like about this book is not because of this book. It is the lore that adds to other books that I like much, much more. So, like, I could never recommend this book to pretty much anyone other than people that are already like, I'm fucking all in, right? There's a few neat things in here, but overall, rough read. I'm giving this a fucking 2 out of 5 blue chambray shirts.
Well, this is a messy book, and it is really, as you were talking, is like, yeah, I'm probably a little biased to it because of what it represents in King's universe for me, which I'm super into. So I don't think you're wrong. You're probably right. I will recommend it to people just to see, like to test that out.
Oh, you think you like King? Read Insomnia.
No, but I did enjoy the things I liked enough, even though there were some parts of it that frustrated me and left me kind of wondering, what is the message of this?
Yep.
How are we supposed to feel? I think, though, I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 blue chambray shirts.
Of course you are.
And that is it for this episode of Derry Public Radio. As always, thank you for listening. Join us next time where we will be covering another Patreon selection by Robin Nickerson, Lisi's story, and we will be reading through part 1, chapter 6. For Joshua Kahn and Benjamin Graham, I'm CM Alexander, reminding you, of all the things which make up our short time lives, sleep is surely the best. Hey everyone, CM Alexander here. Thank you for listening to Insomnia Part 4. We hope you enjoyed it. And special thank you to our supporters for this episode, SKL Stephen King Lovers, a fun, informative, and all-around awesome group of Stephen King fans. If you haven't already, please visit them on Facebook at SKL Stephen King Lovers and join this great community. In fact, you should head over there right now to give us your answer to the question, who do you think the Green Man is, and what role does he play in the world of King? And don't forget to keep up to date with us on Facebook and Instagram at Derry Public Radio and Twitter at Derry Public. Send us an email at derrypublicradio@gmail.com and check out our Patreon page for bonus episodes and our Etsy store for more cool stuff. That's all for now, listeners. Goodbye.